Okay, good evening. Welcome to everyone for this session on how to swap self-sabotage for success. I am Rosemary Wilson. Most of you may have heard of me or know me, have heard me before. I've been doing a lot of sessions on intonations virtually since lockdown started last year, or since the pandemic started. I am a consul for the Londoners of all nations and also the London Inspired Women's Group. And I speak on a variety of topics aimed at helping you to help yourself. Just a little bit about me. If you are on LinkedIn and you're interested in connecting with me, then you can use your phone to use that QR code to find me on LinkedIn. And then you can connect with me and we can continue the discussion. I'm the owner of Pragmatica Coaching, which is a coaching and training company. I work mainly with women to help them move from where they are, so into the sphere of feeling more fulfilled, and especially when there's a mismatch of balance, ambition and balance and fulfillment. And I also work with companies, organizations. I run workshops, used to be face-to-face, but a lot of it's being done online now. So today, the session, I'm going to cover what is success, what does success mean to you? What's your go-to self-sabotage, given that that's the topic? We all have something that we sabotage ourselves with. I'm going to talk about your inner critic, because most of the time you're sabotaging. It's the voices in your head, so to speak, that are telling you what to do and what not to do. And I'm going to talk about honoring your self-worth, your self-worth, your reason for being here, your reason for being honoring yourself and what you're here for, what you're in this world for. And I'll be asking you some self-reflection questions throughout the session so that you can find something that you can work on. And then we'll open up for Q&A at the end, at which point I will stop the recording. My mouse has decided not to work. Oh yeah, it's working now. Okay, so just in one or two words, what does success look like and mean to you? In your own words, what does success look like and mean to you? Just one or two words. Financial, is it a house? Is it a car? I don't know. Is it your children? Is it your partner? Is it your spouse? Is it your parents? What does success look like and mean to you? Is it running your own business? Just one or two words. Just let me know. And how do you measure your success? So you can answer those questions together or just answer one of them. That's entirely up to you. And I will get my glasses out because I can see. So fulfillment, reach my goals, peace of mind. I love that, peace of mind. I'm all a big fan of peace of mind. Fulfillment, reach my goals. I guess you've got different types of goals. Are they material goals, financial goals? What type of goals are they? Well, you don't have to tell me that, but you know what they are. Okay, and how do you measure your success? Is it by your own standards? Is it by society standards? So what society is telling you needs to be done, or is it by someone else's standards? How do you measure success? Is it something you've ever thought about? Because I know when I work with women, especially I work mostly with women, quite often their version of success has been handed down to them by someone else. So often it's a parent from their childhood home. It's been handed down from someone else, or they look at what everybody else is doing, so society, and that's how they measure their success. Very rarely do I come across someone who's really, really driven about what their version of success is, and it's not mixed in with someone else's or societal. So your own standards, that's great, Isa. Okay, so yeah, anyone else? Both. My own standards, yeah, great, Yolanda. You sound like a driven woman, even though I can't see or hear you. You're a woman who's knows what she wants, and I'm sure I've met you before. Your own. Okay, so most of you are, well, most of you, a few of you. Sure of yourself, certain of yourself, I should say. Okay, so your own, maybe you're still thinking about your own goal, because that's quite a deep, heavy question, whether you're measuring your success by your own or someone else's society standards. So that's great. And one thing I want to say is, there's lots of things I can say about success, but success doesn't mean that everything's always going to be perfect. It doesn't mean you will never experience challenges. It doesn't mean you can be complacent, that when things come so easy, you don't have to work at them. And it doesn't always mean that life will be easy. But for me, certainly, and you can examine this, explore this for yourself, success to me does being more mindful of my own thoughts, my own values, what motivates me, what my action steps are, and how do your thoughts drive and transform your actions towards your version of success. For me, it is about a growth mindset. So I am also always looking for solutions rather than picking up what the problem is and going over and over and over the same thing with the same mindset, talking about the problem. I'm always looking for ways out, or ways I can make things better. And something I always do as well, I do stop and notice, and I enjoy and celebrate success, whatever that is. If it's a small win or big win, I always stop and say, that's great. And I celebrate, maybe not in the immediate moment it happens, but I always find the time to remember and note. I do write things down as well, so that I can look back and say what my successes are. So what's at the root of self-sabotage? What are some of the things behind self-sabotage? And my thoughts are, and my studies tell me, that it's quite often our thoughts and our fears that are at the root of our self-sabotage. It's usually your thought that goes into the action you take. So if you're self-sabotaging, kind of blowing yourself up, it's usually you've gone through a thought process, and it usually involves being worried about something or fearful of something. And that's why we often self-sabotage. But, it'd be great to have a discussion at the end about, your version of self-sabotage. And the thing about your thoughts and your fears and what you worry over is they are your thoughts. You own them. No one else is the first point of or call of action for your thoughts. You are the owner of your thoughts, so you believe them, you're quite attached to them, therefore they're harder to challenge. Unless you are really good or great at challenging yourself every day, I'm sure some of you are, but if you're prone to self-sabotaging, then quite often you're not challenging your thoughts, or you haven't got someone championing you or helping you, guiding you to challenge those thoughts that are allowing you to self-sabotage. So, we become quite attached to our thoughts. The ancestor to every action is a thought. Ralph Waldo Emerson, great quote. If you are self-sabotaging, your thoughts are going down the road of, I'm going to do this thing, whatever your thing is, and I'm not going to do whatever it is that will bring me that success, that version of success. So my idea is that you start thinking about your go-to self-sabotage, and that you start swapping out things that you do for your version of success. So swapping out things that bring you closer to your version of success, whatever that looks like, whether it's a specific goal or fulfillment, whatever that is. So, example of fulfillment for me is having a walk in nature every day. And I know that when I don't go out and walk in nature every day, I start to feel quite closed. And for me, that's a version of self-sabotage. If I don't go out and, enjoy, smell the trees, smell the grass, smell the freshly cut grass, if I don't do that regularly, it interferes with my well-being. And that's one of my versions of self-sabotage. So I try to make sure I go out every day. It's not always possible to do it every single day, but I try to do it as often as possible. So what's your go-to self-sabotage? What are the things that you do that stop you from achieving your success? What's your go-to self-sabotage? And it could be anything. It could be you say you're going to exercise and you don't. It could be instead of doing your tasks at work or at home, you are watching Netflix. Instead of eating healthily, you're eating, biscuits and cakes, refined carbohydrates. What's your go-to self-sabotage? What hinders you? Procrastination. Yeah, that's a good one. I was reading an article yesterday about procrastination. that it can be linked to, it's not you personally, but it can be linked to being lazy. But actually, some people procrastinate so that they can think more about what it is that they need to do and to find solutions. So I thought it was quite an interesting perspective on procrastination. It's in the entrepreneur.com, on the entrepreneur.com website, if anyone's interested. So that came up in my one of my news feeds, and I was like, oh, let me have a look at that. And I thought that was quite interesting. So your go-to self-sabotage. So procrastination. Okay. Anything else? Online window shopping. So when you should be doing something, you're window shopping. I once ran a session, and some people said it was cleaning. Cleaning was one. Painting. So painting the house. They would find things to touch up. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So anyway, we've all got a different version of self-sabotage. So whilst you're self-sabotaging, what's your success doing? Is that something you're thought about? Is it moving further and further away from you? I mean, do you self-sabotage so much that it's actually stopping you from achieving your goals? Is there anyone else? Is there anyone here who has an issue or a challenge with self-sabotage that it really stops you from achieving what it is that you say you want? Or is it just a bump in the road and you get back to doing what you need to do? So whilst you're self-sabotaging, what is your success doing? Have a little think about that. Again, I do ask deep and meaningful questions. It might not be something you're ready for. Take a screenshot, do the session, answer the question after the session. Please go ahead. So your habits are, what help you. They can be helpful or hindering. So when you think about your habits or the time you spend around success and versus self-sabotage. So with self-sabotage in mind, how do you spend your time? So cleaning, procrastinate cleaning. Yeah, there's always something to be buffed up when you've got to write that big report, right? Online window shopping. Again, you've got to write a report, or you've got to, you feel like window shopping for clothes or shoes or whatever, new tech equipment. How do you spend your time? What do you do often? What's your daily routine? And remember that your micro habits, the small things you do daily, become the bigger habits. So if you do something, say one day for 10 minutes, that's okay. If you're doing that, every half an hour, you're doing the same thing daily, and then you do something the next day, the same routine, then they become bigger and bigger and bigger. So you start spreading them, they eat up more of your time. So your micro habits become your macro habits. So if you're cleaning a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit every day, and you put all that time together, you're spending hours cleaning, for instance. Sorry, Karina, I'm using you as an example because I can still see your post up there. So think about the small things that you do every day that stop you achieving what you want to do. How much time are you spending on them? What can you do differently? So some examples of the habits that you do that support your self-sabotage. So your online shopping, your procrastination, what does that look like? What are you doing when you procrastinate? Are there lots of different things? Is there something that you specifically do? I know that as an entrepreneur, if you don't want to be visible, for instance, one of the great things you can do to self-sabotage, I call it a great thing because you can do it so well, is sit behind your computer. But rather than sitting behind your computer and being visible, you're just sitting behind your computer, writing things, writing content, not being visible to the outside world. And you eventually don't share that with the outside world. So you kind of hide behind the fact that you're doing something. So busy being busy and not actually putting any work, any effort into getting your work out there. So that's a good example of being an entrepreneur and hiding behind your computer and not being visible. So what are some of the examples that you do for the habits that really stop you, the self-sabotage habits? What are some of the things that you do, or you can tell me? So when you're procrastinating, what does that look like? painting, again, cleaning, sweeping. What does that look like? Netflix, there's so many things to watch on Netflix. What's going on for you there? Anyone? Some examples of the habits that you take on board, the habits that you do that I say support your self-sabotage, the habits that you do that really are good for your self-sabotage. I'm not saying self-sabotage is good, but at the moment, that's what you're doing. Anyone? Self-help videos. Okay, yeah, I love it. Keep watching the self-help videos, but actually don't do anything to change. I drink a cup of coffee every day in the morning. Cat videos. I like that. So is that self-sabotage, Yolanda? You drink a cup of coffee every day in the morning. Is that a version of you shouldn't be drinking coffee, or does that get you going? Cat videos, that's a good one. Dominic, thank you. Yeah, there's always all sorts of things that we can do. Overthinking is also a tried and trusted friend of self-sabotage, you know, and it's okay not to know now, because sometimes we overthink things to the point of we just don't take any action. We say, oh, I'll wait until I know, but it's okay not to know now, but you can take action. How will you know without taking action? So take action so you get a result, and then you can come back to it, and then you can fix it or rethink it or change something. But it's okay not to know now, but you can, you know, do something, take action, take some action so you can get an outcome. You can also ask yourself, what is this overthinking bringing me? Just sitting in your head going over and over and over the same thing. If you are not taking action, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? So if overthinking is your version of self-sabotage or something around that, you know, start asking yourself these types of questions. Again, take a screenshot, and then you can ask yourself, you can go through this for yourself. And if you're worried about something, ask yourself, what is the likelihood of this happening? Because most of the time, what you're worried about doesn't happen. The phrase comes to mind, I think I've said this before to you, I've had many problems in life, most of which have never happened. So if you're an overthinker or a worrier, try to start looking at what you can do differently, you know, gauging how worried you are. And imperfectly done is okay. Just take some form of action. Do something so you can see the result, so you then know what to tweak and what to change. Overthinking, that's one. IN events. Yeah. So Karina, yeah, you get distracted by, yeah, they're classic symptoms, and we do them so well. You know, if we could be experts of self-sabotage, these are the things. So when I asked you what supports your self-sabotage, you know, I was being a little bit facetious, as it were, that, you know, you are doing these things so well, you could become an expert at self-sabotage. So when we're overthinking, we are just following the path of least resistance. So if you are someone who's self-sabotaging, you're just doing the same things over and over again. So you become so good at them because you just keep doing them. You're doing the habits that are guiding you away from your version of success, and you become better at them because the path becomes easier to walk down because you do it so often. And if overthinking is one of your struggles, quite often that goes into the self-sabotage pot. You're overthinking so much that you start doing the cleaning to stop you thinking. That's the type of thing that might happen. You're overthinking so much you start painting a wall. Oh, I think I'll have it blue today, or tomorrow I'll have it brown, or next week, you know, because you want to stop the thoughts going through your head. It's said that the average amount of thoughts that we have daily are 50 to 7,000 thoughts per day. And quite often they're just the same thoughts. You're just regurgitating the same thoughts constantly. And I've got a vision in my mind that thoughts are like a carousel, you know, that like the merry-go-round, and it goes round and round and round. And when you get to, you know, you keep getting on the same, I don't know, a horse on a carousel, you keep getting on the same horse. When the carousel is going around, choose another object to get on, you know, choose another item on the carousel to get on, or simply choose another thought. When you hear the same thoughts going through your head, choose another thought, reframe the thought that you have, choose another thought that helps you move away from self-procrastination, self-sabotage and procrastination, self-sabotage, procrastination, idling, any of those things that stop you moving towards success. And, you know, thoughts also come to your inner critic, because these are the thoughts that are going through your head. Your language tends to be quite mean and quite unhelpful. So spend some time observing your language, you know, the types of things that you say to yourself, the inner critic that tells you can't do something, or it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, you know, that kind of limiting, the setting your, you know, limiting beliefs, but limiting actions, you know, because these thoughts are going round and round in your head. And these are some of what your inner critic might be saying to you. I'm not good enough. I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, it's just luck, I'm a fake, I can't, I'm not intelligent enough. You know, how many times a day do you say these types of things in your head and then act them out? So you think you're not good enough, so rather than taking action, you just don't bother. So these are all part of your cycle of self-sabotage, telling yourself that you can't do something. So I want to encourage you to reframe your language, or think differently about the type of language that you come up with. So if you're the type of person that says, I can't, I don't know how to yet. So literally, whilst you're doing something, if you're self-sabotaging, thinking I can't do something, or I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to start the cleaning, I'm going to watch Netflix because you're frightened of something, you could say, well, I don't know how to yet, but what's the first thing I can do to help me to learn? What's the first thing I can do to take action? So these are, on the left, you have the limiting statements, and on the right, you have the more empowering statements. You know, I don't know enough. My knowledge is growing each day. By building on, by learning, that will encourage you to take action. And I always say, don't do it alone. You know, find someone that will help you. Find someone else who will be your success champion. Someone who's either going through the same thing with you, and maybe you can do it together. But it won't work if one of you is really going for it and the other one's like, not today, I can't be bothered. So find someone who wants the success just as much as you do, but you want it for each other. So what's the reasoning behind your self-sabotage? For those of you who have been sharing your self-sabotage here, what's the reason behind why you self-sabotage? And this could be quite personal. So if you're procrastinating doing something, is it because you think it's going to be difficult? If you're procrastinating to do something, is it because you fear the outcome? Is it because you fear failure? Again, what's the worst that could happen? So what's the reason behind your self-sabotage? When you start thinking about the reasons that you blow yourself up or you shoot yourself in the foot, what's the reason behind it? Is it fear? Is it fear of failure, fear of success? Are you worried about something? And this might be something personally that you need to take away and think about. Maybe you don't know, but there's always a reason for self-sabotaging. There's always a reason for why you procrastinate. There's always a reason why you do something else rather than move towards your success. So what's the reason behind why you self-sabotage? So that's quite a heavy one. It might need some work, some rework, some stepping back. So Yolanda, you said something about coffee. I'm not sure if I misunderstood you, but is it something that you said you're going to stop drinking? But if you are drinking that coffee, I'm going to use you as an example. Is it because it's a treat? I don't know. So what's the reason behind why you continue to do that? I may have completely misunderstood what you said, but it's just a good example. So if you're eating cakes and biscuits, what's the reason behind why you're doing that when you said you want to be healthier? Is it because you don't have a nicely laid out healthy regime? Is it because the foods in the regime you don't like, you don't enjoy them? The idea of eating kale drives you nuts. or you think, "Ooh, you know, what's the reason you'd rather put, I don't know, a pie or a biscuit or a packet of crisps, or I don't know, a glass of wine or a bottle of wine in your body?" For instance, if you're being healthy, I'm just going through some examples. So what's the reason behind your self-sabotage? And again, you might not know what that reason is, but I do encourage you to take a snapshot of this question and work on it for yourself. I'm giving you lots of questions so that you can explore, but pick the one that resonates with you most. Don't pick all of them. Just choose one and choose that one that helps you.
Can I ask you something, Rosemary, please?
Hello?
Can I ask you something, please, Rosemary?
Sure, go ahead.
So where might fear of success coming from?
Where is your, did you say
No,
where's your,
where might fear of success coming from?
where might it be coming from? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, it could be a number of reasons, and I won't go into that right now because I'm recording, but I will ask you some questions at the end. So the question is, where might my fear of success be coming from? Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have that fear, but I heard it several times, people telling me that could be a reason. So I'm looking forward for later. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So I'm going to write that down. Just something for you to think about right now. A fear of the future is because the future is unknown. That is quite a simple way of putting it. You don't know what's coming, so you feel out of control. That could be one of the reasons, but I'll ask some more questions as well at the end. So fear of success, because we all have different reasons why we fear success, failure, etc. But it's usually because it's a fear of the future, which is a fear of the unknown. So thanks for the question. Good question. Thank you, Ramina. So I see some responses here. People asking the reason behind your self-sabotage. You want to do everything immediately. Yeah, like allow myself to celebrate the small successes. Yeah, it's fun to celebrate the small successes, but sometimes we just, again, that the habitual pattern, the things you do every day, you just become used to them. So you not celebrating the small wins means because you're just used to not celebrating the small wins, because it's just something you've become used to. If you started doing it every day, you would become more used to it and you would do it more often, and then you'd start celebrating your success even more, even the small wins. So what do you need to change to bring more of your success? What's the one thing that you want to change to bring you towards more of the success rather than towards the self-sabotage? So we'll answer the question from Ramina as well towards the about the fear of success later on. So journaling I asked you what's the one thing that you need to change. So have a think about that. Again, take a picture here and you can do this as your homework. Journaling your journey. So if you start writing down the things that you do every day that move you away from success, you start to get a picture of you, what you look like, what your habits are, what your thought patterns are. You'll also start getting getting into a habit of journaling what you do, your accomplishments, your achievements, your values, what you're frightened of. And then you start seeing how real they are. So the fact versus the fiction story. You know, what is actually factual, what is real, tangible, versus what you've made up in your head. When you start writing things down, you'll actually start to realize how sometimes, and I'm not being disrespectful, how ridiculous our thoughts can be. You know, we believe them, as I said earlier, we believe our thoughts even when they lie to us, because sometimes it's easier to believe the fear. But when you start seeing what you think in black and white, if you don't want to do a journal every day, some people journal religiously every single day. But if you just spend a day writing down some of these headings here, I've put these headings as examples. If you spend a day writing them down, you'll start to get a whole different picture about yourself, and one that you will recognize, actually, you're much more amazing than you're giving yourself credit for. Much more amazing and much more capable than you ever give yourself credit for, or at the moment you're giving yourself credit for. You know, the most successful people are able to bypass the fears, the self-sabotage, the not taking action. They'll find a way to really walk towards their successes, walk more towards successes, instead of sitting behind the fear of whatever it is that's going on, the thought fear. And fear, you know, our thoughts can bring us illusions. We make them up and we stick to them. We believe them, as I said, because they're our thoughts, and that's what we know. So spend a day perhaps writing down, use these headings or headings that are relevant to you. Keep the headings, maybe just start off with, you know, 3 or 4, start writing them down and start exploring where your strengths are. Maybe get someone to help you to look over them, to what you've got. Someone who's objective as well, not someone who's going to tear you down. I'm not into that. So get someone who's objective, someone who you trust, someone who loves you, someone who wants your success, someone who supports you, to look at what you've written and to help you discuss more what you're truly capable of. That's a really, really good homework task for you. I'm giving you lots of homework. Sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. I want you to do something for yourself. So journal your journey, journal where you are, journal what's important to you. Find a success champion, as I've just said, you know, someone that will really support you, someone who believes in you, someone who wants you to win, or someone who wants you to be where you want to be, not, you know, your societal version of success, or, you know, your parents' version of success, or a teacher's version of success. Find someone who believes in you and is listening to you, listening to what you want, or what you say you want, and will help you. So that could look like anything. You know, you can obviously pay for someone, you can work with someone in your organization, someone who's a mentor or one of your colleagues, a line manager. Someone should be objective rather than telling you what they think you should do. You want them to be objective. As I said, you want them to listen to you and guide you. You know, not everyone has that skill, but you want to find someone who does. You want an advocate, someone who supports you and wants to guide you. If you can't find someone in your circle, you know, listen to podcasts. For those of you who are procrastinating, listening to podcasts and not taking any action, or reading books and not taking action, or watching videos and not taking action, there's only so much of that you can do before you need to put what you're learning into action, you know, taking action, and doing that. So yeah, I suggest you do take some action. It might take time for you to think about what you need to do, but at some point I do recommend you stop procrastinating with the book reading, the video watching, the cat watching, the YouTube watching, whatever it is, and take some action. Even if you're fearful, I always say that confidence comes from taking action. Take that first step. It's really invaluable, even when you're scared, you know, but it's very rewarding. And when it comes to your success, you know, if you're worried about something, and this may answer your question as well, Romina, if you've got a fear of success, perhaps, it could be that you've built up this version of what success looks like in your mind. It's not going to look anything like that. It's going to look like something else. So we can sometimes take our mind off what we think that success is going to look like, or attachment to that success. And remember that life is not designed for perfection. So whether you fear success or fear failure, they are just outcomes. You know, we take action and we have an outcome. Failure is just another outcome. Success is just another outcome. Whether you're happy with it or not is up to you, but there's always something to learn from your outcome. Use the resources that you have in your circle, your support systems. Use those resources. We are inundated with resources. There's resources everywhere. So find your version of what's helpful for you. Remember that roadblocks and setbacks are normal. You know, whatever you had planned for the last year has probably had to be put on hold, but I guess you've done something else or something differently, whether it's procrastinating, reading, or watching. You know, you've done something. But roadblocks and setbacks are normal. It's how we adjust to them That's the most important. So be flexible and ask for help or support where you need it. Honor your self-worth. You are here for something. You are here to do or to be something. So honor yourself. Honor yourself to take action. Honor yourself without being selfish. I'm not talking about going around saying, I love me, I'm so amazing, my ego is so huge. I'm talking about honoring yourself without being selfish. Look after yourself. You know, self-care isn't selfish, but you know, look after yourself and honor your reason for being here and for what you're here to do. Even if you haven't found that out yet, you know, take some small steps until you get there. And I'm going to bring you back to these questions. What's the reason behind your self-sabotage? Because these are two important questions. What's the reason behind your self-sabotage? Is it fear of failure, fear of success? Is it that you believe you can't do something? What is the reason behind your self-sabotage? What is it protecting you from? And what do you need to change to bring more of your success? I'm going to leave that up, take a picture, have a think about it. I can always send it to you if you need it. But just really, really important two questions there. Action steps. So choose one thing to do differently. So from something I've said today will be ringing out for you. If it's not, that's also okay. But you might be also not wanting to hear it because you're still on your version of self-sabotage. That's also okay, because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So if I've said something to you today and you haven't quite latched onto it yet, you may hear it again in the upcoming weeks, months, and then you might be ready to do something differently. But for those of you who are listening and heard me say something that resonated with you, choose one thing to do differently. Take one form of action. Take that first step, that smallest, teeniest step that you need to take. And, you know, get in touch with me. I'm happy to guide or steer you. If you want to work with me, that's also something that you can do. But get in touch. Maybe I can say one thing to you personally, one-to-one, that will help you on your journey. Each day is the opportunity to make the best choice for yourself. Each day we live is the opportunity to make different choices for yourself. So if you're consistently and constantly self-sabotaging, what new choice can you make for yourself tomorrow so that you move away from self-sabotage and more towards your version of success, whatever that looks like? So if you want to get in touch with me, here are my details. There's the QR code again for LinkedIn. You know, I like to have conversations with people. I like to hear what's going on for you. I like updates. You know, please feel free to get in touch with me. And I'll leave that up for a second, and then we're just going to go into the Q&A. So I'm going to stop the recording now. So if you want to ask a personal question, I will respond to you, a one-to-one question. And here we go into the Q&A. I'm going to stop the recording.